Humanity. The destructivity within is like a time bomb in each human heart, which must eat out our souls and leave them rotting down to waste like offals worse than any litter. We are all, as human beings, human wrecks, a failed humanity that goes to ruin, trying to bring with us in our fall our entire planet, nature, life and future. But as that accomplished failure which all humankind hopelessly is, we will not even bring that ruin home, but perish well ahead of nature and all else. How laughable is this pathetic humankind! All history went wrong, and we got nothing right, and here we are, the crown of all creation, the most miserable fool that ever could exist. Beauty's fault. What is wrong with beauty? People oftentimes react to it like to a provocation, as if the existence of pure beauty were an insult which must be acted on with violation, as if the sole purpose of its sheer existence was to be put down and raped and quieted, as if beauty was a general disturbance which must be dismantled. All the same, true beauty will continue to persist and multiply and ever grow more beautiful, since that is the essential character of beauty. No one can do anything about it unless they tolerate it, let it be and cultivate it, like a garden, tended well, allowed all freedom, and appreciated for her charm and inspiration, loved and made good use of as the main expander and developer of love. Creation. Our love goes round and round in perpetual and energetic circulation, never stopping but increasing and accelerating, like a true perpetuum mobile that ever goes on faster, and yet we never tire of our love, as if it constantly regenerated like a phoenix in renewing restoration, and the more so for its self-consumption, as if wasting made you only richer. Somehow we have reached some kind of strange ideal love situation where we never can be rid of one another, while at the same time we don't want to. While our love increases for its practice, uniquely furthering creation which we can't be held responsible for, although we sustain, uphold and further it, but only as an absolutely natural and obvious process, which by analysis would seem perfectly miraculous, but which for us is only being true to what we are. Falling dark angel, the blackness of your spirit is its special beauty, darkness charmingly becoming you and adding to your irresistibility. For in that gloomy darkness there is depth and wisdom almost without end and without bottom, luring anyone to enter and to stay without returning. It looks dangerous, but is the opposite, and being used to it, you find it natural and will not do without it. So keep on descending, fallen angel, ever to more gruesome depths, and I will follow you, not as a slave bound to addiction, but as a lover with a grateful heart. Thankfulness. My thankfulness is without limits for the life and health that was returned to me after a gutter trial and ordeal of pain and dirt and torture and insufferable disability. My absolute inadequacy turning me into a total good-for-nothing, feeling more than miserable and done in. But suddenly the weather changed. I rose up from the depths and from the dead into the sunlight to be active once again, returning gloriously to work and even getting back some old efficiency. How could I be but grateful, beyond any measure of conception, jubilant in happiest humility, and hoping for the life of me to never get struck down again to that abyssal bottom of existence. Tacksamhet. Min tacksamhet är utan gränser för den hälsa och det liv som återgavs mig efter en förfärlig rännstensprövning av mest plågor, mardrömmar, tortyr och outhärdlig invaliditet, som gjorde mig fullkomligt oduglig till allt, mer miserabel och eländig än en död. Men plötsligt vände situationen. Jag återvände från de dödas avgrunder till ljuset för att än en gång bli aktiv och härligt kunna återuppta arbetet och till och med i någon grad bli effektiv igen. Hur kan jag vara annat då än tacksam, bortom alla gränser för vad man kan föreställa sig, och jubla lycklig i all ödmjukhet, försiktigt med en innerlig förhoppning om att aldrig mera ramla så djupt ner till botten av en avgrundsexistens. The mystery of love. The mystery of love is infinite, transforming people into other beings, transcending life to make it higher, and performing miracles with personalities, developing their souls to almost anything, since love is freedom above all, for creativity and the imaginative force to realize, accomplish, and succeed in almost anything, creation being first of mysteries of life's existence, without which life would not be at all, while it begins and ends with love. There in between there is a universe of possibilities where nothing, absolutely nothing, is impossible. Ageless beauty. If beauty is true, it does not fade, but on the contrary increases with maturity and age, and wrinkles cannot spoil it. You are an example of this strange phenomenon of love and beauty only growing with the years in depth and in attraction, although we do not grow younger but instead increase in timelessness. That is perhaps the essence of true beauty, that which never fades but instead increases only, like a flower never dying but expanding like a tree, to ever grow more firm and lovely, to never die. For that is the true mark of beauty. She can never die. Love backfire. As I love you more with my heart than with my body, more with my soul than intellectually, more with my mind than with my brains, you vanish to withdraw into some nothingness in a vain effort to a kind of self-effacement, only to an opposite effect. The clearer and more lovable and gracious you appear, and the more solicitously I must love you. It is in vain you claim to be a fake and come with futile warnings. They must only have a direct opposite effect, like fuel into a fire that can never die. And that is how love works. The more you fight it, the more you must lose against it, for the stronger it becomes. How love goes on. Sexuality does not retard with age. On the contrary, it continues to expand. Love must always find new ways, new channels of expression, new languages of feelings, new dimensions and new dreams, and nothing ever can contain or stop it. Never be afraid of love and its expressions, and especially not as you grow with age and wisdom. Love always being and remaining your life's leader, and its source and motor, teacher and ideal, that ever leads and reaches forward even beyond death. Fåfängans martyrium. Livet är bara lidande, i synnerhet för martyrer. Det som känner det mest, offer för sin egen överkänslighet, som bara tilltar med åren, varför många begår självmord av livets outhärdlighet, då denna ständigt accelererar och ökar med tyngd och stress, som ständigt pressar dem djupare ner i förnedringens obotliga träsk, som bara drar ner och aldrig upprättar. Vad kan man då göra åt saken? Det finns bara en sak att göra, att fortsätta arbeta tills man dör. Att stupa på sin post är till och med för martyrerna något av en personlig seger trots allt, även om den är den minsta tänkbara. To you, Longing for you is keeping me alive with dreams and charms of long ago that clearly tend to immortality, or at least to timelessness, for there's no higher beauty than the dreams of you that are too real to not be true and more convincing than reality. Wherefore I will stick to them with faith of limitless endurance and willingly continue building on them for a monument for you that will establish the most natural and obvious fact, that our love belongs as much to immortality as to ourselves in our modest piety. For a monument for you that will establish the most natural and obvious fact, that our love belongs as much to immortality as to ourselves in our modest piety. Love's supremacy. Love demands expansion. Love demands expansion, free expansion evermore, and no one has the right to stop it, and indeed no one is able to. Love therefore seems to be of forces the most ruthless, but love is not love if it resorts to violence. The magic and the force of love is always to get through, but without all enforcement, always getting over with it and surviving as the very element of life's survival and expansion. And whoever tries to stop or to oppose it is a self-destructive fool, incapable of education and instruction, since if he does not know love, he is a hopeless case of total ignorance. Kulturen. Vår kulturverkstad drabbas av ständigt nya nedskärningar. Vi har inte råd att uppdatera våra datorprogram. Våra anställda ger ständigt mindre arbetstid. Hälften av våra lokaler har vi tvingats hyra ut. Bokförlagen ger ut ständigt färre titlar. Och tidskriftsdöden griper omkring sig som en tystnadsepidemi. Kulturen är en slagen gammal kvinna som ständigt måste huka sig och finna sig i att vara tiggerska och hänvisad till fattighuset. Man drar alltid ner på henne. Hon är ju inte nödvändig men kostar bara pengar. Hon är en onödig lyx. Och eftersom hon är aggressiv och inte kan försvara sig och saknar tänder, liksom hänsynslöshetens vapen, kan man lugnt marginalisera henne. Kan man lugnt marginalisera henne och hålla henne på avstånd, medan hon får huka sig för slagen av ett ständigt hårdare samhälles gatlopp och vandra vidare och vara glad för att hon alls får privilegiet att få överleva. Your beauty. Everybody loves you, seeing you as the ideal you are. Your influence of beauty being timeless, like, as you say, as if it was inspired by the rulers of the ancient times, when nature was religion and supreme as such, and led and dominated by high priestesses of love. Bring back those times with all their blessings, and use your holy influence to reinstate world order under the command of nature and her purity and beauty. Maybe you could do it, for I know the total beauty of your soul and what such an endowment could be capable of, and what such an endowment could be capable of, and what such an endowment could be capable of, while the outside superficial appearances are only lies for the protection of the almighty truth that is in your soul's beauty. Intuition. Your soul's truth is the only truth. Idealism is never wrong, while your senses are elements of deception, and wisdom and morale are an illusion. Intuition is the only stable compass and the hardest one to follow, since you never see it but can only feel it, and the senses tend to block it, but as long as you do not forget it but keep it in your mind's direction, you cannot be wrong, or at least not entirely wrong. Let love lead the way. As the years go on, love does not get any milder, maybe slower, but with age more deep. Experience maturing and bearing fruit of wisdom, knowledge, intuition, understanding, insight, and a better sense. You go on falling deep in love and ever deep in... You go on falling deep in love and ever deeper with the years, while constancy becomes the most important. The more you love, the less you want your love to change. Love is without season. There was once a dawn and spring of love, but that spring never ends, but goes forever on, as long as love keeps leading you, and there is never any reason why it shouldn't go on leading you forever. Dark idealism. Can idealism be dark? It depends. Idealism is never dark in itself as an idea, but if you, like so many do, confuse reality with your ideas, idealizing fakes and lies and deceptions by mistake, so as many do, then your idealism becomes an instrument of darkness and backfires on itself, causing harm and grave delusion, while on the other hand, reality can never be ideal, and you cannot do without ideals. The art is to somehow project your ideals into reality and thus improve and change reality, not manipulating it but encouraging its better possibilities, thus helping it along to some improvement. That idealism can never turn to blackness. Constructiveness can never be an instrument of darkness, while lies, deceptions, and dishonesty can never last, especially not as ideals. Kärleksdikt. Du ljusstråle från ungdomen, du var min stora flamma under omgestaltningsårens turbulenser, och din kärlek var som solen i mitt liv så länge vår kontakt var stadig och ej andra kom emellan med sexuella monopolkrav som förintade vår harmoni. Men du fanns alltid där och återvände alltid troget, liksom du, när vi på nytt rök samman oförväntat mitt på torget och allt visade sig vara oförändrat. Kärleken fanns kvar trots 20 år av skilda vägar, och vi hade knappast vuxit alls. Det eviga beviset på sann kärlek. Ingenting förändras fastän allt förändras. Kärleken förblir densamma när den väl är sann, vad som än händer den och dess förvaltare. Och så är vi detsamma som för 20 år sedan, bara ännu mera så än förut. Remaining light of youth. My beam of youth, you were my flame in hard days of upheaval, constituting all my sunshine while our contact lasted, without others interrupting with absurd claims of relationship monopoly which ruined our harmony. But you were always there to ever faithfully come back, as now, when suddenly we found each other once again and in a parking lot, and everything was perfectly the same. Life was still there in spite of 20 years of separation, and we hardly had grown 1 year older. Ultimate syndrome and evidence of true love. Nothing changes, although everything has changed. Love remains the same when once found out as true, whatever happens to it and its victims. And thus, we are the same as 20 years ago, only even more so than before. Respectability. The problem of respectability is that you can't do anything not worthy of respect and can't be irrespectable. You are confined to your respectability and must respect it or you lose it. Maybe it is worth it. Many do and afterwards insist that they have nothing to regret. Perhaps they really don't, but still, most people hesitate to take that leap and risk, and many take an even greater risk instead, experimenting and developing a double life. a life of perfect watertight respectability, and on the other hand an underground activity of self-indulgence where there are no limits to what liberties are taken. It is good as long as they are not found out, and maybe it is recommendable to try. Respectability is, after all, a regular confinement, which all nature must rebel against, demanding freedom. Perfect love. My love, it does not matter whom you go to bed with, as long as I may love you still. You are my only love, and something tells me it is vice versa, although I know all your lovers. This is not the problem. Actually, there is no problem, since love conquers all and solves all problems by its mere serenity. Don't worry, dearest love. You have all freedom you can take, as long as I may have all freedom in my perfect love of you. Some predicament, stuck in you and can't get out. But is it such a dreadful trap? I can't complain, but at the same time I'm aware of the apparent danger of this predicament becoming something of a habit. But if also you have no complaints, so let us just go on with sticking to each other as long as things are working out. It took some years to get together, but if this becomes intolerable with the years, a separation cut would be the easiest thing, and if we do it, we can always start again. Your birthday. I don't know if you are too good to be true, but you exist, and that's enough for me, since you exist for me at least, so that I at least can bear some witness of your beauty and maturity, and how they only seem to steadily increase, as if instead of growing older you grew younger towards ever more accentuated youth, that only seems more stable with the years. If youth thus could persist in growing younger, that would be the evidence of how the spirit rules the body and decides its state and not the contrary. Let me thus continue loving you, to thus increase the power of your spirit, so that you can steadily continue growing younger as long as I am here to love you and as long as I shall stay alive. Creation. There is only one creating force transcending all. That is the mind-imagination, which is all the creativity there is. There are no limits to the mind and its capacity. The universe is infinite, and so is the creative mind. And what is possible in your imagination is also possible in reality, provided that you think creatively and not just dream a lot of nonsense. I think Einstein would agree with me, who said that there would rather be a limit to the universe than to the mind and its capacity for limitless creation. The spell. You have cast a spell on me, and I am hopelessly, completely lost, and can't get out of the entanglement, since love compels me to be faithful. There is no other choice. The truth of love excludes all other possibilities. So I am stuck, delighting in it, since it means I'll never lose your company. Be with me always, my beloved, and I will try to never let you down, but on the contrary extol you, putting down some effort to live up to you, since you nevertheless will always be too good for me and always out of reach. The bleakness of reality. Reality is never pretty in its brutal ruthlessness of naked truth, but rather awesome and forbidding, let alone unhuman, not to say the least, a terrifying, hostile, monstrous cruelty that leaves no man alone in peace, but forces everyone to deadly lifelong struggle all the way down to the grave. Nothing can improve reality except romantic dreams and fantasies, your own imagination and idealism, which can at least improve reality by softening it to your mind and senses, and that is what we call creativity. We do not know if actually does improve reality, but we could hardly go on living if we were bereft of that last possibility and hope. Unconditionally. You made no conditions, but left it all to me. You are free to break it up at any time. That was the one condition of our relationship, with the understatement from your side that you would never break it up yourself. I call that generously liberal for a condition, and we have never been without each other since that day. Divorces do not work for us, not even when we travel separately far apart, and nothing has brought us more close together than when we were separated by our journeys. Psychopathic spiritual obsession with each other as a constant substitute for marriage? Call it rather friendship and a natural relationship that not even nature can dissolve, since nature brought it on, uniting us. The light of your darkness. Let me bask in the sunlight of your darkness, more warming than the scorching tropical sun, and more enlivening than any energy. Your darkness has a special character of generously beaming and bestowing more light than any sun or star or supernova is capable of in the universe. You not only warm my heart, but fill my life with hope and joy by being vibratingly so dark, but in a sort of bottomless profundity, all filled with knowledge, love, and wisdom. Somehow you hold the key to anyone's heart, being qualified to read and look them through, not missing anything of any substance of their souls, but reading them as carefully as any book. So they depend on you, and so do I, the light of your darkness being more important to me than any visual light, since it is the very opposite of blindness. Avalon. I simply wanted just to save your life and have you here amongst our brothers as a friend and knight of our peace, but no sense or wisdom or persuasion could bend your mind of perfect obstinacy. But no sense or wisdom or persuasion could bend your mind of perfect obstinacy. You simply had to risk your life, your future, and our happiness by volunteering as a victim to the dragon. And here you are, the dragon slayer, having rid our realm of the most evil menace, and is now the first of our knights, and shall be honorary Lord Protector of our Queen. My friend and brother, I embrace you with as much affection as I hold for our Queen, and thank you for your boldness and the grace of our fate that saved you for our realm and future, to grace it with perpetual harmony. My friend, you are my equal. This is the finest day of Camelot, and the triumph of the goodwill of Avalon, so golden in this perfect moment, that I humbly dare express the wish that it might show some lasting grace in perpetual longevity for all eternity. Thus spoke the king, and dubbed Sir Lancelot, the first and highest of our knights, and special Lord Protector of our Queen, and of the land of everlasting youth and beauty, in perpetual honour, glory, and romantic chivalry, in sustained idealism forever. The irresistibility of darkness. You lure me into ever-growing darkness, like into a wood that ever grows more fearsome, as we tread on paths to nowhere without even having any hunch of where we are going. No one knows, and all we know is darkness that keeps falling and curtailing us, inveigling us in imperceptible secret mysteries of love and evil and perdition. All we know is that this road is leading forward, after all, But whether it's a tunnel or an abyss, a blind alley or a path to progress and release, we cannot know. We can but keep on going on into the darkness, thickening and ever growing more menacing and fearful and destructive in its black addiction of the final vicious circle. Passion. Passions must lead you astray, as nothing can resist them. You are hopelessly carried away to where your will is without power, and you have no influence of your own destiny. Follow blindly as a slave your heart, and you will end up in a series of discoveries, of wonders and experiences unheard of, which would never have been possible if you had mastered your own love. Of course, any experience is worth it, and as long as your love doesn't kill you, go on loving, following your passions, for as long as they keep going on. Our strange association. We have come so deep into each other that we'll never find our exit way again. Not that we're stuck, since willingly we are so, but it must result in some confusion, since it will be difficult to separate us, even in our poems, since they also, like ourselves, keep entering each other, as we really know each other's texts by soul, if not by heart, as they keep interfoliating, as we do each night in secretive communion, clad and veiled in dark inscrutability. That is love, united demoniacally and inseparably, unalterably and inviolably forever. Love is to be complicated. To fall in love is easiest of all. To stay in love demands some mobilized persistence. To maintain it as a labor and to see to the bitter end is the supreme ordeal. The challenge of it is the complication which is always there, inevitable, to continue constantly increasing for as long as it goes on. And the test of destiny is grappling with the complications which will multiply as you go on, like dragon heads of Hydra, 2 new ones growing out for every one you manage to chop off. The complications are the sport of it, and the challenge is for you to never give up championship. If you give up, you are a loser, and you then have everything to lose. But if you manage never to give up and stay in love through all the complications, you shall be the ultimate and greatest winner. Vita nuova. You gave me another life, as if the one I had was not enough, and more than I could handle. But the randomity of your generosity so much enriched my whole existence that I feel my life as twice as much as if I actually now had 2 lives to lead, with the responsibility which it imports. What would I be without it? Bored out, maybe lost, and maybe nothing, since the new life also gave my life new meaning, which was maybe what the old one lacked. So here I am, with you locked up in double lives, and there is nothing we can do about it but the best of it, to grip and bear it, and keep it out, sustaining the charades and role plays to the end, for better and for worse. Kärlekens komplikationer. Kärleken skall vara komplicerad. Ingenting är enklare än att bli kär, men för att fortsätta att vara kär så krävs det någon sorts mobiliserad envishet. Att hålla fast vid kärleken och hålla den vid liv är mer än blott ett arbete, och att härda ut med den intill det bittra slutet är den yttersta och absoluta prövningen. Komplikationen är utmaningen som alltid föreligger oundviklig för att ständigt tillta lika länge som din kärlek håller på, och ödets prövning är att ta upp kampen med komplikationen som alltid skall multiplicera sig så länge som din kärlek håller på, som hydrans huvuden där 2 nya växte ut för vart och ett som du högg av. Det är den stora sporten, där det gäller att ej någonsin ge upp ditt mästerskap. Om du ger tappt är du förlorare och har allt att förlora, medan om du lyckas med att aldrig någonsin ge upp och har din kärlek kvar genom alla dess komplikationer, då är du den största vinnaren och oslagbar som sådan. The mists of Avalon, the whisperings of a silence come with their embrace for the protection of our sanctuary, free from worldly troubles and their pettiness, in sustained and lasting harmony and constancy, to ever be the home of peace and beauty, with acquired taste that constantly improves, to set a good example for the world, and judging it in truth and justice for its folly, baseness, and barbarity, while its only basic crime is ignorance. Thus the realm of Avalon keeps towering forever above the mists that hide it and protect it from unworthy mortal and uneducated eyes, while we who are initiated in her realm will piously continue to perform our duty of upholding her as the ideal of all ideals forever. Momentary relief. As I long for you, my love, my tears run gushing freely in the fond nostalgia of our memories, which is my only comforting relief from my abhorrent pains and trials, under duress, headaches, and injustices, that makes your personality, in contrast, a blue angel out of paradise. When shall we meet again? I sorely miss our soothing intimacy, while my only comfort is my dreams, in which you dominate each night my world of sorrows and atrocities, which you alone make me forget, and momentarily at least can cure me of, an assuaging moment's brief relief in an eternity of torment. Invitation. Let out your hair and be erotic. Your beauty is not for concealing. Your mask may be efficient as protection, but it is a lie confining you behind yourself, while beauty only can be given justice, well released and triumphing in freedom. Remove your black disguising glasses and your 7 veils. Let out your hair in overwhelming length and glory, for your foremost duty must be only to be loved, and if your beauty is concealed, you make it difficult. Your hair is no good tied up out of sight, and we all know how your body should be seen. We will be hidden anyway in darkness in the night, in bed together, where we can't be seen, but there it is all right, since we are compensated. Adversity and defeat. It doesn't matter if you lose it all, and all your life turns into something of a blackout, of disasters, tragedies, black holes, and Armageddons. All that means nothing, like all wars and slaughters. The world wars were but parentheses, meaning nothing really to the course of history, the reapings and the sowings coming regularly anyway, while you alone in all the universe are always there and in the middle of it all, the hub of the rotating universe, which no defeat can touch and no adversity has any right to bother, since you are a soul and sovereign as such, a spiritual being of supreme integrity, a god of consequence and some untouchability, while all the world and universe is just a mess, the sole purpose of which is to serve you. This might seem a bit presumptuous and preposterous, but it is actually the truth. It's hard to face it for its splendor and supremacy, and people usually prefer to look another way, but it is always there, reminding you, if not before, in death, that you cannot escape, that you are doomed to be yourself and no one else, forever in the now that is eternity. Asylen. Apropå min senaste rättegång, åtalad för att ha cyklat mot grönt gångljus när ett osett cykelljus var rött, dömd till 1500 kronor i böter för brottet. Hela dokumentationen finns som anteckning under mitt namn Christian Lanchai på Facebook. Jag ville aldrig slåss med verkligheten. Jag ville njuta av den och behaga den. Men hur jag än försökte vara den till lags, behaga den, försköna den och idealisera den, behagade den endast slå tillbaka för att skoningslöst och ensidigt, urskillningslöst och elakartat konsekvent blott ge mig fan, som om jag var en brottsling för att jag blott ville göra gott. Mitt brott var då min kreativitet. Så sätt mig då i fängelse och isolera mig med självmordstankar som den enda terapin och vägen ut, det enda rimliga att göra som en människa brottsligt delaktig i det omänskliga fördärvet av planeten, mänskligheten ihjälparasiterandes på en natur som kvävs i mänsklighetens spyor av dess ansvarslöshet, korruption och självsvåld. Min enda tröst är min asyl, min arbetsplats, där jag alltjämt åtminstone kan arbeta, gratis som jag alltid gjort i hela livet, för att fortsätta få fan för det av orättvisans och omänsklighetens samhälle. Om man ej får vara idealist och leva för idealismen har i livet någon mening och är blott parasitism. Och ett samhälle som bryr sig om att sabotera, motarbeta, våldta och förgöra själens idealism är dödsdömt och ett monstrum av parasitism som man kan överleva blott genom att ta avstånd från det. How do you do it? Your body is like an explosion of the purest everlasting energy, but of a spiritual, vital kind that only gives and never takes, which is why it is impossible to ever tire of our love affair. How do you do it? Everyone must ask, and I have wondered it myself ever since our relationship became a fact, but this mystery has constantly grown more mysterious. Double-hard experience and its wisdom might be a great part of the answer, but does not explain the art and craft behind it all. Never mind, the point is that we carry on and never tire of our perfect love, that keeps on going more than well and only grows the more for its intrinsic mystery. Delicate approach. It's difficult to love you since you always glide away, as if you were not real, but still there is no being more real for all your mystery and enigmatic riddle. You hide away in constancy to be the more alert and active, manipulating behind the scenes, known and present everywhere, and constantly unfathomably out of touch, like another Phantom of the Opera. But I know you to be the loveliest of all, and it's your humbleness that makes the mystery. As long as I may serve and love you, I am happy and content and ask for nothing more, and dare not question your unfathomableness. Love restored. The terrible ordeal of tyranny, deceit, and cruelty has marked our lives with scars of suffering, but never once imperiled or reduced our love. You are the same, only more beautiful than ever, adding some maturity and depth to your nobility, your purity appearing the more intact for your humiliation, all the dirt that you had to endure just seeming to enhance your personality, integrity, and beauty, and the charm and glory of your soul. Your light appears in fascinating splendor for the background of the darkness of your night, that you came through more than alive with honor and the rare reward of happiness. No one was closer to my heart than you. I loved you always, no one knew me better, and the fact that we have reunited once again after so many wars of torment and self-sacrifice is more than proof of that our destiny together from the start was something more than we could ever dream of. konstverket. Vad bryr jag mig om deras elakhet och världens ignorans och nonchalans, den infernaliska krasshetens egoism och den mänskliga blindhetens destruktivitet, när jag ändå kan arbeta och ibland få vara kreativ i fred? Jag struntar i att tjäna på mitt arbete, bara det blir färdigt så att jag kan visa upp det med ett eget liv och budskap av bygglighet och sanningsskönhet som kan göra det bestående. Det räcker gott åt mig. Låt andra gamar tjäna pengar på det. Jag är nöjd med kunskapen och äran om att vara verkets skapare, ty ingenting kan överträffa det. The mystery of dualistic unity. One should expect some variance between two people of so different worlds as we are, you and I, and yet we are one soul and were so ever. As if we had been together, knowing well each other always through the ages, although at the same time so completely different. Is that friendship, love, or something else, like soulmates of eternity? Our bodies are of no importance or concern. Their needs are secondary to our feelings of belonging to each other as two souls that need each other to be more complete than ever we can be as we enjoy each other physically. That's the mystery, the higher sense of being and desire spiritually than physically, as if we can only be fulfilled as persons when we are together and forget our bodies. The problem of discretion. The truth is never what it seems. It's always hidden underneath and carefully suppressed from policy or care or caution or whatever, oftentimes by scruples and discretion, but it's always there and crying loud in silence, like a death scream from someone buried alive, that must eventually come out in dreadfulness, like the hidden story and agenda of so many presidents, so many public figures, popes and actors, film stars, kings and world celebrities, their secret failures, disillusions, disappointments, shameful shortcomings, frustrations, tragedies, regrets, mistakes, and human stains, that they are the more painfully aware of, the more they make efforts to conceal them. Self-control must ultimately burst. The truth will out, and then we have the problem constantly recurring. Would it have made any difference if the pain had been released before? Or would it have been better if it never had been known at all? And usually there is no unambiguous answer to any of the many self-contradictory questions. My religion. You are my religion, dearest, not because your beauty is imperishable, not because of your ideal diplomacy, and not because your amiability is perfect, but because your personality is wondrous constant. Your reliability was always there, in patient calm to rule my horrible impatience, which is getting worse for every year. And even in your doubtful morals no one can impeach you. You have seen and gone through all the worst. You know about conditions beyond all endurance. You have crossed the limits of intolerable pain and still maintained your equilibrium, as if it was natural to sometimes lose one's mind and let it pass, like any storm at sea, your wisdom only growing cooler and maturing for the trials of extremist crises. Who could anything but love you? Still you have reserved yourself for me. We know each other like none other know and understand us. Thus we must have been created for each other, which is only to accept and make the best of, and which is so good to know that we at least then have each other. Creation. The mystery of magic is creation, but it hurts. It is a painful process, like a child is born in blood and horror. so is any act of creation something of a crucifixion in the tough ordeal of getting there and reaching the result of durability. The mystery of getting something out of nothing, the impressing spellbinding effect of the presence of the spirit of creativity, which pervades and rules the universe and all our lives in the most dreaded form of destiny or fate, the tragedy of life and death, which becomes the more inspiring the more suffering it brings. And there you are, the end result of magic, the mystery of something getting into being with a lasting and profound effect to stay and remain productive and in charge as part of the sustained dimension of continuous timelessness. Crisis. My love is lost, and I find no way out into the wilderness where she is gone. In crisis disappeared for no apparent reason except chance, bad luck, and circumstances most unfortunate. She will be back, but who knows when? Meanwhile, I'll have to grope around and falter in the dark, like some decrepit invalid without a crutch, and stumble on in darkness helplessly and hopelessly. And in the darkness without her there is no light at all, but only the impossibility of tolerance and patience with this most exasperating situation. At your own peril, you must not be alone, the most harmful of conditions, completely self-destructive, and what's worse, unconsciously, because you get too focused on yourself and lose the right perspective, getting stuck on your own grindstone with no possible detachment, and thus you get beside yourself, while relationship is all that helps. The possibility to speak with someone and to forget all about yourself, which is what everybody needs in order to go on surviving and not get stuck in self-destructive egoism, which is the surest way to mental suicide. You have to care for someone. Life is only possible in cooperation. People who can't help each other will never be able to help themselves. After the shipwreck, what can you do but gather up the ruins, summarize the debris and collect it, starting once again all over from a new beginning, although it is certain it will lead to just another shipwreck? You are lost without identity. You have no ground to stand on any more, no confidence, no trust, no home, no faith in anything or anyone, for perfectly and only realistic reasons. But instead you have the universe, all life in nature and its continuity, a vast eternity of possibilities and riches, and a veritable boundless ocean of constructive dreams. Since fundamental universal creativity is always there and waiting for you to take part in it. It's worth a few occasional disastrous shipwrecks just to be alive and stay alive. Some comfort. We have all been young, no matter how decrepit we become, no matter how beset with melancholia, no matter how absurd experiences, no matter how much we've been burned, no matter how we suffered and endured, with scars all over and with wounds that never heal and never vanish. Still, we have all been young and fresh and gay and active and alert, and that's our comfort when we reach maturity, that no one can take that away from us, that we once have been young, in love and beauty and enjoyment, and at least in some obscurity at heart, still are and keep it with us, to remain in some way young at heart forever. That no one can take that away from us, that we once have been young, in love and beauty and enjoyment, and at least in some obscurity at heart still are, and keep it with us to remain in some way young at heart forever. Privacy. I love you more than words can tell and more than feelings can express, too well aware of the impossibility of our absurd relationship in which we hardly meet at all. But love can be surprisingly much stronger than by common triviality like sex and entertainment. Doing things together and just be together. Love is more than sex and more than love, and our affair is quite unique in that we are so close together, although so completely separate. Let people wonder, but they cannot touch us, anyway by gossip, slander, speculation, or whatever, since we know each other in a way that no one else can know. Dreams of love and beauty. Dreams of love and beauty are the only things worth living for, but they are always there, and once you've found them, they will last and evermore remain as long as you are faithful to them. Cherishing, sustaining, and remembering them as dreams more solid than reality, more lasting and reliable than men and women, saved from liquidation by your soul, which naturally keeps preserving what is worth preserving. Thus you have a mandate for eternity, your only one, mind you, your dreams of love and beauty that you were wise enough to take well care of. Carrying on, our relationship is always at a crisis because of circumstances, practical complexities, the sabotage of others, inconveniences, and difficulties of communication, while the least of our problems usually is the greatest for all others. Our love relationship itself and how it works, which always went on smoothly, without the smallest friction, tension ever. Is this kind of love then our reward, a union and affair completely free from strain for all our tragedies, frustrations, and disasters? Maybe we can count us happy, while survival under difficulties and in constant crisis keeps on being our destiny and ensign. Involverad är kärleken självdestruktiv till sitt väsen. Passionens svarta avgrund är blott mörker och dess svarta hål är ett inferno. Men vad är väl kärlek utan det? Och vem kan leva utan kärlek? Kärleken förtär mig och jag njuter av förintelsen och ber den ej upphöra med sin plåga, men blott fortsätta accelerera den, då kärleken är något som ej någon kan få nog av. Jag är icke mer än mänsklig, lika prisgiven och utsatt som en var, åt kärlekens förföljelse och infernaliska förförelse, och kan blott njuta därav lika länge som den håller på med sin tortyr, och ber blott att den aldrig måtte upphöra därmed. Involved. Is love self-destructive in itself? The black passion abyss is but darkness, and the black hole of it an inferno. But what's love without that pit? And who can live without it? Love consumes me utterly, and I enjoy the plague, imploring it to never ease and cease its torment, but continue the exacerbation and acceleration, since love is something no one ever had enough of. I am only human and as vulnerable and exposed as anyone to the infernal persecution and seduction of outrageous love, and can but thoroughly enjoy it for as long as it continues gracing me by torture, and can but ask it to go on and never cease. Din skönhet. Jag tillber din skönhet, dess djupa dramatiska gåtfullhet, dess otransakliga mörker och dess outgrundliga hemlighet, som måste trots allt mänskligt förstånd med sin ogripbarhets oantastlighet. Att jag dig älskar är för lite sagt, att jag dyrkar dig är ej till fyllest, men det att du dock är min vän är min salighet, som jag helst icke vill dela med någon, ty du ensam är min fullkomlighet. Mer kan ej sägas, ty ord är ej nog. Ty din gåta är till för att ej kunna tydas. Din tidlöshets skönhet är allt och ej nog. Your beauty, I adore your beauty, its dramatic and profound enigma, its unfathomable depth and darkness, and its undiscoverable secret, which defies all human sense and reason by its inviolable untouchability. That I love you is an understatement, that I adore you is not well enough, but that you are my friend is my beatitude, that I would rather never share with anyone, since you alone are my supremest consummation. More cannot be said, since words are not enough, since your enigma isn't for interpretation, your timelessness and beauty being all and not enough. Kärlekens förbannelse. Mina damer leder bara till bekymmer med att alltid råka illa ut, ej genom självförvållan eller slarv, men bara för att de är damer och som sådana så sårbara och ömma som om kvinnan bara föddes till att lipa över egna olyckor genom sårbarhetens öden. Varför får då inte kärlek vara endast kärlek och i fred? Det är som om det hänsynslösa samhället och världen inte kunde tåla kärlek utan att bestraffa den. Som om den måste straffas blott för att den vågar existera. Det är kanske höjden av allt livets orättvisa att dess upphov kärleken skall alltid vara det mest straffade av allt. De bästa vännerna till minne, vi närmar ju oss allhelgona, Aurelio Lanciai, Hubert Evert, Bernt Lindholm och Nils Sondefors, som fortfarande finns kvar här på Poeteressi. De bästa vännerna är de som gör sig påminda ännu efter döden. Det kan synas som ett cyniskt och sarkastiskt konstaterande att de bästa vännerna är vänner som är döda, men det verkar faktiskt vara sanningen. Skall man då skräda sanningen för att den är obehaglig? Aldrig, tvärtom, den måste föras fram och desto mer ju mera obehaglig den är. Det följer med mig ännu, mina bästa vänner, min far i sin totala måttlighet i allt. Min barndomsvän, ett ideal av grannhet och av godhet, som gick under i en cancer som missköttes av hans läkare. Min broder invaliden, överkörd som barn, som blev den främsta levnadskonstnären av alla. Och min ryske vän, den störste humoristen, alltid lika rolig och uppfriskande i överlägsen sundhet, som gick under som Vysotski genom självförbrukning. Fastän de är borta är det mera levande än nog de flesta människor jag känner, som om det att de gick bort för tidigt beseglade och etablerade en vänskap mer definitiv än evigheten. The best friends, your best friends, are those who keep in touch still after death. It might appear a shameless and sarcastic statement that the best friends are your dead friends, but it seems in many ways to be the truth. Should we avoid the truth, then, for its inconvenience? Never. On the contrary, it must be carried forth and brought the more out in the open for its inconvenience, the more disagreeable it is. They are there still and with me, my best friends, my father in his paragon of excellence and temperance, my childhood friend, ideal in handsomeness and goodness, terribly mistreated for his cancer by his doctors, my goldsmith brother, driven over as a child and made an invalid for life, who nonetheless became the greatest expert on the art of living, and my Russian friend, the greatest humorist, always funny and refreshing in his sound superiority, who went under like Vysotsky from intensity of self-consumption. Although they are gone, to me they still are more alive than probably most people that I know, as if the fact that they went out too early established and confirmed a friendship more definite and stable than eternity. tomorrow and tomorrow, washed up by the consequences of adversities and trials, devastating losses and excruciating melancholy. It is difficult to find one's feet again, indeed, if there at all is anything to stand on. I can only think of the consuming ague of a broken heart with no one for a comfort, like alone in space, in darkness, without anyone to hear the screams of your extreme despair, with only utter coolness for an answer in dead calm, and nothing actually has really happened. You are still the same, and you are there. Your life, as always, is at hand and full of force, as nothing really ever happens, changes, or has any meaning. Call it Buddhist calmness and nirvana, if you like, but I would call it the persistent constancy of nature, where all conflicts, wars, and cataclysms will ever be no more than passing storms in coffee cups. So take it easy and remain, and call it good whatever happens to you, and you will survive, to face tomorrow yet another glorious day. Venus, arising from the foam of storms and ocean billows of the night, you rise in glory to astound the world and drown it in your beauty overwhelmingly, and what is more, not temporarily, but in a lasting, dazzling spell forever, since your beauty is of that extraordinary kind that never ages, fades, or vanishes. And am I proud to be your chosen lover, servant, thrall, depictor, and companion, following your trail wherever and supporting it in absolute transcendent loyalty and faith, as any artist ardently devoted to his work of outstanding ideal creation, with sustained unending adoration for a glorious harmonious accompaniment to constantly enhance your beauty, adding to your everlasting realm of love. Diana, goddess of virginity, of purity and freedom, roaming in the wilderness to care for nature, favouring all animals and hunting with them, you became the basis for all ancient mysticism, with shrines in every sacred grove, for the sanctification and respect of life. The queen of virtue and the mistress of integrity, you were indomitable and inviolable, as the guardian supreme of health and freedom. Nothing is more holy than Dame Nature, and you were her impersonification, and will eternally remain so, an ideal of chaste and sovereign liberty, commanded by respect and discipline in the supreme, imperishable beauty of superiority, in health and soundness, sport and perfect freedom. Athena, goddess of wisdom, friend of Odysseus, guide and provider, the friend and protector of civilization, thy force is the mission of knowledge, of quality, insight and competence, mastership and education, the queen and protector of academism, universities, and every kind of spiritual accomplishment. You were never seen without helmet, and that is your mark of protection and vigilance against barbarity, ignorance, and the intrusion of stupid destruction, disorder, and anarchy. Never abandon us in our vulnerability, because civilization, philosophy, and spirituality is always exposed to the forces of ignorance, the meaninglessness of brutality, and the insane weakness of violence. Guard us and save us, Athena, in vigilance and the protection of spiritual growth. Hera, hail mother of the gods, the female ruler of Olympus, the mistress of the heavens, and the troubled wife of Zeus, the most impossible of her husbands. Somehow you can keep him in control, however, although not without some jealous persecutions of his nymphs and chosen victims, ending almost all of them in tragedy. If Zeus is the loose hand of Olympus, flinging thunderbolts and following his whims, you are the firm hand holding it together, and with success, since your family holds out and remain in loyal fealty, sticking to each other in good faith, in spite of all controversies and conflicts. You are a brave and stalwart goddess, whose beauty and strong character none can deny, but bravest above all are you for sticking it out and enduring it with Zeus. Demeter, mother of the earth, the caring goddess of all living things, the chief protector of all cultivation, welfare and expansion of all nature, you are piety itself, but also sorrow, searching for a ravished child forever, and indulging in your sorrow, wetting earth with tears, to make it grow the more and give good harvests. No life service being more indulging than to cry for sorrow in sincerest love. But you are also guardian and protector of all harvests, making wheat grow, starving off starvation, as you are the farmer's goddess above all, perhaps the most important, vital and constructive, as no humankind can live and prosper without food, of which you are the universal and unique provider. So desist not, motherhood, to care for us, and we shall always turn to you in maximized and our sincerest piety and gratitude for the existence of our freedom maintained and supported only by your nature. Hestia. This was published here before, but she fits well in as the conclusion to these hymns to the 6 goddesses of ancient Greece. She was the only one of the Hellenic gods never to be depicted. Her symbol was instead the hearth. The unknown goddess, almost never made a statue of, a silent, modest background figure, staying quietly at home, and maybe the most vital and important of all gods and goddesses, for doing nothing but just being there at home in coziness, with warmth and candour by the fireplace, just keeping up the homely standard order, keeping clean and making the home comfortable. What could possibly be more important than the very base of life, a home to be at ease with and to be at home in? Still, she never made much noise, no scandals, no atrocities, no arguments, no love affairs, just being there as the continuous stability, the comfort of just being there at peace and keeping up the basics as the only ground for the existence of all humankind. Some mysteries of love. The strangeness of love is that it can have no finish. Once you love, it never ends, but must be constant in continuation, or it is not love. It also must embrace not just your love, but everything she is and does, her thoughts, considerations and creations, since your love is that especial force inspiring her to creativity. Thus love spreads like the rings of water, never to dry up, but always to continue, spreading further and expanding ever, to miraculously end, to only start again, a gracious circle, ever coming back to you for you to please yourself by starting it again. Rejuvenation. What a miracle to see you fresh again, after an eternity of some tumultuous decades, of divorces, dramas, traumas, and upheavals, all reduced to nothing in an instant, since you were so totally unchanged, as if our 40 years, by some strange miracle, were reduced to but a moment's time, out of eternity, at once returning to our youth and giving us a new eternity and lifetime of no end. How shall I handle this new totally surprising love, so generously brought by fate and fortune, undeserved and unexpected, but the more sincerely welcome, for its heavenly and overwhelming grace that must completely fill me up with boundless joy and energy and a new life for you, my love, our common memories and all those friendships that we shared together. Stay by me and don't desert me once again. Our divorce was much too long and all too painful to bear any repetition and to be supported or endured, since we have been through far too much already not to finally deserve each other. Reunion. My love to you is like some service of divinity, completely voluntary and in character religious, since religion actually brought us together and kept us united for some time in service until nature brought on a divorce of destiny to almost last a lifetime, an eternity of limbo, while we were the gadgets of our destiny to play with and to handle roughly, teaching us some karmic lessons about life, relationships, and how we always must return to basics, to ourselves and to our origin, how we were created, and to our debts to those who made our lives and beings possible. And thus we always have our piety to stick to, which has always followed us like guardian angels, for protection against worldly troubles and deceits, to always stick to ourselves and to our truth of character, of truth, and of our obligations to ourselves, our families, and to our plights and duties, wherein we shall always find each other for our warmth and comfort, inspiration and protection, in our love, the secret of our lives, for no one can live without love, which is the key to life and to eternity, which only can be handled by the means of loyalty. So here we are again, referred to one another, as if our love as children in all innocence was powerful enough to last for all our lives and keep us well protected in eternity. The vital flow of tears, your eyes must never dry. They were made for tears, to make them flow and stay alive, for as long as possible and all your life at least. But some tears last forever, and they are the true life-giving tears, the flow of which keeps flooding all the world, maintaining oceans, watering the earth, to make it flourish, bloom, and stay alive. And all those tears are not of sorrow only. Call them rather pity and compassion, maybe even piety, if not commiseration, which is what is keeping life alive in constant crisis, struggle for survival, never-ending anguish for the threat of constant death, the worries of the obligations of maintenance, which is actually the motor energy of life, the sentimental melancholy of the self-effacing Godhead, that divine and universal source of life that we shall never know or understand, but for the fact that he keeps crying all the time to keep the world and universe alive from pure and piteous commiseration. Between ourselves, I don't want to let you go. It is with absolute reluctance that I am without you, and that you are with me all the time, although but virtually, is not enough, but merely the poorest remedy for our separation. Our love is unique and must needs entertainment, like an art or language that must rust if you don't use it. And I don't want any end to our engagement, as we already were separated far too long. Love is like a stormy visit out of paradise, turning everything completely upside down, but positively, like some heavenly enforcement, leaving you in turmoil until things calm down, which you don't want them to, since you enjoy the passion. Let it be, let it continue and go on forever, and I shall enjoy the storm and relish it, and make the best of it through all the trials, suffering with gladness and enduring anything for you, since you are you and I am here to love you. The distance trauma. It results in terrible ordeals of abstinence, since usually those that you love the most and would most eagerly be in close contact with are farthest out of touch and most impossible to reach, which must inevitably lead to tribulations, most atrocious sufferings, and insufferability at large. And what is worse, it is a kind of problem that, once it's there, you can't get rid of it. But what is distance then to love? Love neutralizes and dissolves dimensions. Thought transcends and is superior to matter. Nothing can inhibit thought or keep it within limitations, even less so when, as usually is the case, it is propelled and motivated and kept flying by the basic force of life called love, which is the one thing, maybe, that exceeds the speed of light. You can control thoughts, concentrate them, guide them, but when they are moved by love, there's nothing that can stop them. Distances, like all dimensions, suddenly become nonsensical, as trivial nonentities to be ignored and bypassed, while your love is all that matters, keeping you and life alive and constituting all the nourishment for your immortal universal soul. The problem of rights. Being right is more important than to force your right. The Tibetans, being under occupation now since more than 60 years, oppressed by tyranny, bereft of their own land and independence, having had their culture almost extirpated and demolished, putting fire to themselves in desperate suicidal protest, are completely right, while the Chinese, insisting on their tyranny, are hopelessly completely wrong for all their overbearing, dominating violence, in which nothing morally can save them. The dogmatic church and other such monotheistic institutions have for some millennia hounded, persecuted, and put freethinkers to death, while these were in the right, the martyrs, heretics and pagans, like Giordano Bruno and Jan Hus, Jeanne d'Arc and all the executed witches, while the executioners of Islam and the Church were hopelessly, completely wrong, and will be judged so for eternity, and there is nothing that can save them morally. The losers, martyrs, scapegoats, sacrifices, and all victims win eternity and will forever be atoned for and remembered, while their murderers, no matter how victorious they are, will lose forever and can never save their faces. They are damned, accursed forever, blighted and condemned, while those who were put to the stake and sacrificed will live forever and triumphantly, universally acknowledged and acclaimed as morally superior forever to those dogs who did them in which case there is nothing that can save them, moral victory and right outshining all the victories of gain and greed, which eventually must come to nothing, while there is no labour more rewarding than that of the moral power of the soul. Your enigma. The question is not who you are. No one can answer that question about herself, since your identity is everything and nothing. You can become whatever, make yourself whatever, Be whoever, but at the same time be at a loss, aware of the black hole of your enigma, of your personality, and everything that makes you you, your heritage and what you were before your birth, the history about yourself, which cannot be researched, but still is there in manifest, imposing presence. I know that I am many people and can never be but one, so I devote myself to work to thus evade the problem, in a constant, desperate escape from any ego trip, and thus I can avoid the problem of my personality. Are you the same? You have a personality like me, but I don't know how you have handled it. If it ever was a problem to you, and that's maybe your enigma. I don't know you in the least and never shall. So we are free to be without ourselves together. Lost in love. It can happen to anyone, and it usually happens to us all. It is only natural to be lost in love and to stay that way indefinitely, paralyzed, transfixed, immobilized and powerless, while love is all that works and matters. There is nothing wrong with that. We actually were made for it, and it did produce us all. So just give in and go for it and make the best of it. Adorn your trap of love with your abilities. Indulge in all those moods of melancholy, longing, languishment, desire and frustration. If you can't beat reality, you have your dreams, which in your world will certainly beat everything, and your paralyzation will turn into fruitfulness. It's all a matter of let go. To make resistance is the height of foolishness, stupidity and folly, since you really have no choice but to follow your own nature guided by your love. The depths of love. Love will take on many forms, but none will ever be consummate. However, every form is good enough, whatever its expression, and can never be mistaken. Love is always recognized as love, even when its language is contempt and hate, which is why it's so important to interpret love correctly. That's the true art, seeing love behind it all, when that's the character behind it, masked and enigmatic, dark and puzzling, difficult to get the hang of or imposing, the art of understanding being the most difficult of arts and also the most necessary and advanced, which you will never, like with love itself, be able to be fully educated in. Livets förräderi. Vem har inte blivit sviken någon gång i livet, blivit överkörd, ställd inför rätta blotta villvilja, skrotad, våldtagen och likviderad, helt i onödan för ingenting, och vem kan tiga om sin plåga, vilket skrik kan hållas tyst i längden? Ingen klarar sig från detta fenomen och trauma som är allmänmänskligt. Ingen kommer undan livets orättvisa och dess grymma obarmhärtighet, som är som en naturlag. Du är född blott för att plågas, och medan du är född så får du stå ditt kast och finna dig i lidandet så länge som du lever. Allt vad man kan göra åt dilemmat är att leva och stå ut med att naturen har sin gång, och åtminstone då inte hålla tyst om saken, men helt enkelt vända motgångarnas prövningar i motsatt riktning genom att ge dem fritt utlopp genom harmens kreativitet. Livets resignation. Omkring 20 år så tål man ännu vad som helst. Vid 30 vill man gärna ha en egen säng att sova i. Vid 40 känner man behovet av en egen bostad. När man fyller 50 börjar ambitionerna bli mindre viktiga. Vid 60 har man redan börjat trappa ner. Vid 70 kan man acceptera pensioneringen. När man är 80 år så är man nog på säkra sidan av sitt liv. Vid 90 börjar det bli dags att tänka på refrängen, och vid 100 är det dags att börja om igen. Nollställd. Naken har du fötts till världen och naken är din själ för resten av ditt liv. De kläder som du får är för att kyla dig och dölja din ofrånkomliga nakenhet. Och så blir hela livet bara en förklädnad, en förkonstlad maskerad av bara tillgjordhet och masker och hyckleri för döljandet av sanningen som alltid ska förbli en ömklig nakenhet. Men även själva kroppen är blott en maskering, en robot som du styr, en automat att lura världen med, ett medel för bedrägeri och lyckligtvis en dödlig lögn. Du själv är någonting helt annat, nämligen din nakna själ, vars nakenhet är sådan att den lyckligtvis ej någonsin behöver synas, och du till och med kan komma undan med den när du dör. At 0. Naked you were born to earth, and naked shall your soul remain for all your life. The clothes you get for your protection and for the cover of your nakedness are only a disguise for all your life, an artificial masquerade of only lying masks to cover up the truth, which always shall remain pathetically naked. But your body also is but a disguise, a robot and contraption to deceive the world with, a means for faking vanities, and fortunately a most mortal lie. You yourself are something different, namely your own naked soul, the nakedness of which is such that fortunately it can never be detected, so that you can even get away with it and take it with you when you die. Självmord eller självuppgivelse till 70-årsminnet av Stefan Zweig. Inget dåd kan ha ett sämre rykte, vara mer föraktat, stämplat som den maximala fegheten. I vissa länder straffbart, mera än med döden, den totala eviga fördömelsen i helvetet. Men det är att förenkla saken. Allt beror på handlingens motiv. Om det är hämnd som avses, såsom följd av oförrätter, vilket det ej sällan är, så måste saken ses i mera sakligt perspektiv. Låt oss som exempel ta ett klassiskt fall. 1942 var Stefan Zweig en ledare för humanismen, som författare mest översatt i hela världen, en representant för pacifism, kultur och internationalism, vilket gav honom en position av oerhörd betydelse. Men såsom jude tvingades han i exil från Österrike och fann slutligen sig isolerad i Brasilien, berövad all kontakt med sina tyskspråkiga läsare. När han begick sitt självmord med sin fru förklarade han klart och tydligt att det bara var av intellektuella skäl. Som intellektuell fann han det omöjligt att andas i en värld av krig och Adolf Hitler, dominerad av vulgär politisk propaganda. Fastän han förnekade att skälet var personlig frustration, så hade blott ett faktum att han tog det steget oerhörd betydelse moraliskt för den intellektuella världen. Och det året vände kriget emot Hitler, först i Ryssland vid Moskva, i Afrika och slutligen vid Stalingrad. Det var den yttersta personliga demonstrationen mot förtrycket som man kände såsom intellektuell av politikens övervåld. Vi upplever idag precis detsamma i Tibet, där hittills mer än 20 munkar bränt sig levande till döds, och det var inga självmordsbombare. De offrade sig själva blott i livets yttersta demonstration och reaktion mot outhärdlig grymhet, övervåld, förtryck och kränkning, vilket måste föra med sig konsekvenser. Suicide or self-sacrifice. 70 years since the suicide of Stefan Zweig. It has the worst of reputations, considered generally the worst of crimes, punishable by death or worse, the absolute and utmost cowardice, the definite damnation, doomed to hell forever. But it's really not that simple. It depends on why you do it. If it's a revenge on those that wronged you, or if it's a demonstration, which it often is, it must be viewed correctly in perspective. Let me take a classical example. Stefan Zweig in 1942 was something of a humanistic leader, most translated author in the world, representative of culture, pacifism and internationalism, which gave him a tremendous standing of responsibility. But as a Jew he had to leave his native Austria and found himself eventually completely isolated in Brazil, not able to communicate with German-speaking readers anymore. When he committed suicide with his wife, he made it very clear it was for purely intellectual reasons. As an intellectual, he felt asphyxiated in a world of war and Adolf Hitler, dominated by coarse anti-spiritualism and media propaganda. Although he denied that he dropped out of any personal frustration, the fact that he did had a tremendous impact morally and intellectually for all the world. And during that year, actually, the tides turned against Hitler, first by Moscow, then in Africa and Stalingrad. His action was supreme as demonstration against the oppression he felt as an intellectual by the vulgar imposition of politics. Today we see the same phenomenon in Tibet. Some 20 monks have burned themselves to death. No suicidal bombers, only private self-sacrifices, as the greatest demonstration life can manifest against intolerable cruelty, oppression, and the violated rights of freedom, and its effect must have consequences. The honeymoon is over. All honeymoons must pass and vanish out of sight into a neverland, where you at least can still imagine that they carry on, while you are left alone with the delusion of reality, the sordid realism of dismal darkness, which must ever tie you harder up into a knot of disappointed bitterness that ever must grow worse and ail you unto death. But there was once a honeymoon in spite of all. You could believe in happiness and fall in love when you were young and fresh and beautiful and healthy. But that paradise is closer than you think. Since once you had it, bringing it into your soul, your Neverland is always there and waiting for you, carrying on as usual, where the best part of your truth and beauty never are forgotten, but will keep you warm when all the world is cold. Caretaking. How shall I love you? My capacity is not enough, and I can't always reach you, since you are so volatile and fleeting as a dream, too beautiful to be intruded on and importuned, too delicate and vulnerable to be touched, and too exquisite not to be with constancy adored and loved. They say that femininity is frailty and weakness, but I think it is the other way around. The more profound its spirituality, the stronger, and that's where we have the obligation of persistent adoration. Spirituality is beauty and is life, and the more beautiful, the more reliable and generous its life, which it's our duty to maintain, sustain, and entertain protectively with our lives and loving care and adoration. The other side of love, the constant worry, the despair and the frustrations, disappointments and the total everlasting grief that constantly grows worse, are just a few of the outrageous symptoms of the tribulations and self-torture we call love. And so the question always rises, is it worth it? Is it worth the constant sacrifice, the anguish of the doubts, suspicions and deceits, the pain of the defeats and the adversities, the losses without end and the disasters? Well, If you survive, you always have the possibility to start all over once again and take another chance. And no one ever failed to do that who was well acquainted and experienced with love. GAM-samhället. Energibolaget i Sverige AB kräver 600 kronor i straffavgift för att man av missnöjesskäl byter elbolag. Detta är tyvärr en skälig missnöjesdikt. Man kan ju inte bara klaga på regnet hela tiden. Varsågod, ta för er bara, girighetssamhälle, som en någonsin kan tröttna på att bråka med mig, skönstaxerad för att jag aldrig har för liten inkomst och förföljd av skattemyndigheterna tills min ekonomi var helt förintad, varpå man nedlåtande med 7 års dröjsmål gav mig landets lägsta möjliga pension som någon sorts kompensation för att det tvingat mig ge upp att tjäna pengar. Ändå hade jag en gång en hyfsad tjänst som organist och tjänade mer än vad jag behövde i en god katolsk församling där jag trivdes väl och hörde hemma som född katolik, men sparkades för att jag hade fräckheten att påpeka latinets nödvändiga vikt för den liturgiska musiken. Men latinet hade skrotats av ett Vatikankoncilium, varför jag blev obekväm och måste sparkas bort. Förlagen ratade mig konsekvent för att inte kunde se en möjlighet att tjäna pengar på historiska romaner, skådespel och dikter, hur utförligt och välskrivna det än var. Så att jag har förblivit refuserad nu i 40 år och publicerar därför gratis mina verk på nätet samman med vad jag har komponerat genom åren. GAM-samhället vägrade mig konsekvent en utkomst och har bara straffat mig för att jag varit kreativ. Men felet är blott girigheten som förlamar hela samhället och genompyr dess väsen genom hjärntvätt och byråkrati. Du måste vara girig och ta del i girighetens stress, ty annars har du ingen del i samhället. Då avstår jag nog hellre från det privilegiet för att enligt min natur fortsätta kunna vara kreativ. The success of failures. You pulled away, but I could never leave you. If it is a crime to be a narcissist, then all of mankind would be prosecuted, for there is no other natural religion. Each and every one is his own God, and of all religions the most realistic one would be the one acknowledging the fact and making it its basic creed. She cheated me and hurt me by her infidelity, but so did they all, so many others, as if our relationship and union only was a reason and excuse for faithlessness. And worst of all were feminists, the cruelest one, the most extreme one, lesbian and to some exaggeration. Only you did not deceive and cheat me, but instead you brought on some adventure, wild experiments in metaphysics and the occult, which no one can know where they might lead, while certainly the constant risk of death is imminent. This brings me into constant worry, like a torturous malaise of some maliciousness, that I can never more get rid of, as incurable as long as I love you, which I must do forever, since you are the closest thing to perfect love that all my failures, in spite of all and after all, led up to. Midnight Conversations, an old poem published anew because of some emendations, a rather familiar situation to most. In the darkness of midnight, far away beyond ourselves, we meet and join in timelessness like two spirits moulded into one by the truth of this momentary eternity. This bliss is the supremest of this life, and the miracle of it the most incredible. The sight goes out, and we live by hearing only, sweet soft words of barely audible voices, the loveliest of this life, only because they understand each other, and thereby comprise each other in the pious breathless embrace of eternity. This union is this moment which, if you have experienced it, you can but always pray for its remaining and continuing forever. Sometimes I wonder who you are. Sometimes I wonder who you are, since you are never quite definable. You keep evading me, absconding into shadows, as if you were apprehensive, fearing some contamination, either by yourself or for yourself. But I could never fear a thing of you. The more I love you, the more you retire, as if you refused me your identity, or were afraid of making it knowledgeable at all. So do departed spirits haunt the living, still communicating, but communicating vaguely, as if fearful of their actual condition being known. But you are here, alive and kicking, and you are forever on my mind, and that's what makes it so frustrating, never to attain and reach your actual personality. It's like hide and seek, but I can never find you, although you are manifestly there for sure, but covered in a mystery, a cloak of darkness and invisibility, as if my honest love and most sincere communication only were allowable on purely an exclusive spiritual plane. Beyond reality, our world is another better world, a world of age, nay, a world and age of timelessness and beauty, far removed from this world of indecency, of vulgar greed and base voracity, where beauty and idealism seem in exile, doomed to languish, starve and stifle in an age of narrow-minded automatic inhumanity, while we were made for love and inspiration, human dignity and the appreciation of humanity, since being human is the only decent standard which got lost in the last century, when fools rushed in to rape and devastate a world of order and romantic aestheticism, to trample it under the armies of dictators. We have nothing more to do with them, nothing in common, and no business with their devastation, but stick faithfully and closely to that world of beauty, which was painfully neglected and forgotten and abused by those who violated it and ruined it. Our realm of timelessness is beyond their mortality and vanity, and when at last they will wake up from mortal folly, they will find us there to welcome them back home. Portrait of a lady. Describing you is something of a challenge, since you make a sport of your concealment, hiding your good looks and covering your hair, the richest and most beautiful I know, under the bushel of your veils and shawls, while you but seldom look into the eyes of others, as if you saw far too much of them in but a glance, and usually allowing no one to see yours, as if you had to cover and protect them with dark glasses from the ignobility of others' hearts. Your figure is a problem too, far too well shaped, with hips too narrow for a lady, raising the suspicion that you would be unfit to have children, which is maybe why you never had any, while at the same time your appearance is of perfect femininity, so well proportioned and so graceful in its movements, so expressive of the softest care and mildness, raising and inspiring respect and telling of your wisdom, while at the same time a warning is inspired of the sensitivity of your dynamics and explosiveness, like some grenade that could go off at any time. The message is the clearest possible. Leave me alone, respect me, love me if you want, but don't come near me, since it's best for you the less you know about me. Her disgrace, you ask me to contemn you. That is not easy, although no one is infallible. We are but human, but at the same time we are not only human. There is more to our humanity than we ourselves are quite aware of, and although I could point out your faults, they are but trifles in comparison. Your hinted wrinkles vanish in the sunshine of your smile. The shadows of your past are outshone by your beauty, and the darkness of your soul that you persist in boasting, as if that was some protection or excuse for your indisposition, are but shades like of mascara on the beauty of your soul. Your poverty means only that you never have been spoilt, and age is but increased nobility, maturity, and wisdom, each year adding to your merits of survival and persistence, and to my increasing love for you according to what you deserve. Contempt? Impossible. Respect? Of course. And nothing so much more than that except for love. The age of passion. Let's make love before it is too late, for time will never wait for us, and love is always short of time, and we must be in time before we get too old for passion, which demands our action now, postponement of which means the death of it. The time is now, and not at any other time, but in this moment of our love at present there is room forever for some timelessness, since love is a dimension of its own, exceeding time and all concerns of age, for which we never can become too old. Thus even in the mortal moment of our love, at this most precious fleeting presence, our love is an eternity that will go on, and never die, although we would be but a moment unified in our consummate and completed passion. Kodsamhällets stress. Man måste byta koder hela tiden, och det hjälper inte att man lär sig dem. Då andra byter ut dem om du inte gör det själv, och inte bara koder utan även lösenord, användarnamn och andra viktiga krypteringar som måste innehålla stora bokstäver och siffror om vartannat och nödvändigt utan ordning, medan koderna i sin tur även ställer till det genom att ett L är som en etta och en nolla som ett O. Så koderna och lösenorden måste göras mer komplicerade, så att till slut vi alla är bortkollrade och utelåsta, så att ingen kommer vare sig in eller ut. Och vi är strängt förbjudna att meddela våra koder någon annan, och ej ens vår postiljon kan längre informera oss om våra egna koder eller lämna våra brev i brevlådan, då kodsamhället blivit allt för komplicerat, medan enda räddningen finns i våra datorer, som vi inte kommer in i då de har bytt lösenord för säkerhetens skull. My demon, you are my demon, ever present but absconding, tantalizingly evasive and alluring, like a shadow you can never catch and never do without, but at the same time something of my guardian leading me on crooked paths, but always in the right direction to a destiny I seldom am aware of, but which ultimately usually proves true. At the same time you are possessing me, without you I'm lost and can but long for you, my worst, most painful abstinence, while I only am fulfilled when we get on together. As an intimate relationship, it is more closely knit than any marriage, rather like as soulmates, making up and adding to each other like a coin of opposite and different sides. You are my demon, I can never do without you, and as long as you can carry on with me, I know I shall be whole and prosper, happily in love with more than just a partner. Out of nowhere, as people pass away, they leave behind a void of talks that never were completed, conversations and intimacies badly to be missed, unfinished cycles, projects and possibilities that were too often thought of but forever unfulfilled, and above all the physical immediate close contact, without which you are left at a loss, disoriented and abandoned to your ghosts, or, what is worse, yourself. But still there always is a remedy, right there in front of you and in the middle of all darkness. Opportunity will wait for you to just take care of it. For every old friend that is lost, a younger friend will take his place, appear from nowhere and report to take his stand. And even in the darkness, in the absence of your love, a new and warmer, maybe even more intensive, passionate and stimulating love will strangely suddenly appear, since that is how love works. It never ends, it only dies to gain new strength, be reinforced and find new ways and forms. Acknowledgement. Did I demand too much of you and make impossible pretensions? Maybe I was too much of a snob and too possessive in my strictness, too much of a critic and too little of a lover, being too severe in keeping to my standards while your generosity was always without reservations. There is nothing to regret, though. I could not be less than what I was, nor compromise with my convictions or turn any blind eye to the false notes of your music, nor be any different from my own true heart. What came between us was not me, nor was it you, but only that which wasn't you. Now you are free and liberated from the dross of all the bondage that destroyed your life, and can at last see all things clearly, while at least we now are free to smile indeed in friendship everlasting that can never be impeded. And that's something even more worth than that love that never could exist between us, although it was always there and undeniable, and still, for all its strange, untouchable unmentionableness, a stranger love than any other love in our lives. Fragmentering. Melankolin var alltid mitt temperament, på gott och ont. För mig var sorgen alltid vacker, och det här med vemod är för mig en medicin mot märkligheten. Våra liv är breddade med möten och premiärer, som dock alltid avslutas med avsked och dess smärta som blir kvar. Som något av en flykt från verkligheten och en lisa mot dess grymhet hängav jag mig åt musiken, där jag fann en högre sanningsskönhet än all den brutalitet som tagit över dominansen i vår värld. Men ack, min mänskliga beskaffenhet var ej tillräcklig för musikens ideal. Min kropps och händernas begränsningar blev en förödande komplikation. Ett handikapp i högerhanden gjorde mig till livstidsinvalid. En skada som med åren bara tilltog och blev svårare, så att jag under mer än 20 år försökt och sett mig nödsakad att avstå från musiken med ett vemodigt farväl för alltid. Det har inte gått. Jag bara måste kämpa vidare mot omöjliga odds, och därför har jag aldrig gjort karriär och aldrig nått en stor publik. Vad gjorde jag för fel? Jag levde för min kärlek, för musiken och för konstens skönhet, kanske allt för intensivt, och sidosättande allt annat, jordisk kärlek, välfärd och karriär. Men jag har aldrig kunnat ångra mig. Om det är någon mening med det som man lider för, så kan ej någon smärta bli tillräcklig. Reunion. Thank you for the pleasure of enjoying well each other once again, like a fresh start after some time of absence, almost like the dryness of some languishment, or a divorce and crisis of some rupture. But it was a healthy and enjoyable resume to feel the lust of wallowing in slime and the debasement of mortality and ordinariness, the trivial common vice of being only human, with the passion of commitment in your lap, accepting and partaking in the weakness of your bias, in a fit of universal tolerance of sin. Our love was always only a beginning, going on forever, as it seems, since nothing ever could impede or stop it, least of all the reason of good sense and rationality. So I would guess it will continue to survive. Irrefutability. Love is only true if it is blind, and you can't see another course of it except to follow it wherever it may lead you, and its destination must needs be unknown. Those are the tokens of true love: no sense, no cause except in blindness, a permanent blind date, no ending, no control. When love is there's nothing more important. All the world becomes a negligible triviality. All matters of career, economy and situation are reduced to a nonentity, while love is first and last and everything between. To mind it must become your only serious business, and it fills your life, which otherwise is empty. Who your love is of less importance in this context. Most important is that you have someone else to love than just yourself, and you can only keep it by remaining faithful and to never let her down, whatever happens in eternity.